Before we get started, please go over to Amazon.com and grab a copy of my book, Education and Justice. If you have an African-American son in public school, you need this book because I teach you the many ways that public schools mistreat African-American boys and what you can do to help your son. So go over there and get your copy immediately. As you've heard many times from me and from other content creators and political strategists, attorneys, politicians, and so on, that elections have consequences. Elections have consequences. Whether you vote or not, elections will have consequences for your life. All right, so one of the consequences of this past election is this barrage and campaign of anti-blackness by way of executive orders. Well, the executive orders keep coming, and they continue to be anti-black. So recently, Trump released an executive order that is about homelessness and mental illness. We're going to look at and read some of it in just a moment. But it is anti-black, and it will disproportionately impact the black community. Again, it will disproportionately impact the black community. Those are the consequences of the past election that I'm talking about. And whenever I do these stories, whenever I cover one of these executive orders, I always look at them from the perspective of how they will impact my community, the African-American community. Okay? Every time, nonstop. Now, this one is no less. Hey, family, do you believe in the work we're doing? Does our content speak to you? Do you appreciate our in-depth legal analysis and political commentary from an African-American perspective? Do you believe it matters to our community? Then don't just watch from the sidelines. Please click that membership button and become a member of the 2% Club today. That's right, we need just 2% of our subscribers to become channel members. For just $4.99 a month, that's less than 20 cents a day, you'll help us keep creating powerful content that defends our democracy, demands justice, and develops a strong African-American community. But if you want more, at $9.99 a month, which is only 33 cents a day, you'll get access to exclusive members-only live streams, bonus content, and behind-the-scenes updates. And for just $14.99 a month, which is under 50 cents a day, our top-tier members get access to live Zone calls, strategy sessions, and a direct voice in shaping this movement. We're not just building a YouTube channel. Folks, we're building a movement based on righteousness and justice, just what our community needs in a time of disinformation and division. So if you believe in what we're doing, click the membership button and join now. Become a member of the 2% Club today. Let's build something powerful together. Impactful of our community. And I'm going to show you that. It is really disturbing. It is really disturbing the way this executive order deals with poverty and homelessness and mental illness. All right, so let's get into it. And the first thing I want to show you is that the African-American community suffers from homelessness and mental illness disproportionately. And that's why this executive order is going to affect us disproportionately. All right, so let's read this information. Trump's homeless crackdown will disproportionately jail blacks. In 2024, over 240,000 Black Americans, which is 31.6% of all homeless individuals, were experiencing homelessness despite Black people making up only 13.7% of the total U.S. population. And that's coming from HUD. So we only make up 13.7% of the total U.S. population, but we make up 31.6% of the homeless individuals, the homeless population. So we're overrepresented in the homeless population, which is why changes made to how the country handles homelessness will impact us the most, disproportionately. All right? And Trump is changing how the country will handle homeless people going forward. And it's not a good change. All right, this goes on to say, Blacks are disproportionately represented among both the homeless population and in underserved mental health care systems. And this is coming from www.columbiapsychiatry.org. So we're disproportionately represented not just in homelessness, but also with those dealing with mental illness. And the executive order that we're about to look at addresses both. And some of the changes that this executive order will make regarding the countries dealing with homeless and mental ill people is extremely punitive. All right, so let's look at it now. Here's the executive order: ending crime and disorder on America's streets. All right, let's read it. We're going to read some of it. By the authority vested in me as president by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, it is hereby ordered. And notice this executive order was released last, I think, Thursday, July 24th. Section 1, purpose and policy. Endemic vagrancy. Now, I want you to pay close attention to the word vagrancy. We have seen that word in our history before. We've seen it most especially during Jim Crow, vagrancy laws, and how those vagrancy laws were used against African American people. All right, Section 1, purpose and policy. Endemic vagrancy, disorderly behavior, sudden confrontations, and violent attacks have made our cities unsafe. The number of individuals living on the streets in the United States on a single night during the last year of the previous administration, 274,224 people, was the highest ever recorded. The overwhelming majority of these individuals are addicted to drugs, have a mental health condition, or both. Now, one of the reasons this issue is dear to my heart is because as an attorney who has represented homeless people, who has represented low-income people, who has represented many mentally ill people, I am very sensitive to this population. I am very, very sensitive when I am representing one of these people because they need special help. They need special help. When I'm representing these people, they are oftentimes completely dependent upon me to fight for them, right? Because quite often their family doesn't care. It's not always the case, but in many cases it is the case. Or the family's in another state, another city, may not even know what's going on with this person. And so then it's left up to the attorney who is representing this person to go the extra mile of the way to protect them. So absolutely, I am real sensitive to the homeless and mentally ill populations. And quite often, these people are dealing with what we call a dual diagnosis of both homelessness and mental illness. And you can throw on top of that substance abuse. So they may be addicted to drugs, mentally ill, and homeless all at the same time. And so I think society should be extremely compassionate regarding these people. Well, in many ways, this new executive order does not show the compassion that these people need. All right, let's go back. Nearly 2/3 of homeless individuals report having regularly used hard drugs like methamphetamines, cocaine, and opioids in their lifetimes. An equally large share of homeless individuals reported suffering from mental health conditions. And oh, by the way, I'll never forget, I represented this one woman who was homeless, had mental illness, was addicted to crack, and HIV positive. And all of that was coming down on her at one time. And her family was back in Chicago. So she had no contact with her family. And when I went to the jail to see her, it was heartbreaking, the way she looked. I kept a picture of her. I won't put it up here, but it was heartbreaking to see someone who was in this condition. Again, HIV positive, homeless, drug addicted, and mentally ill. And you could say abandoned by family. So how we handle this population should be with the utmost compassion. So it goes on to say the federal government and the states have spent tens of billions of dollars on failed programs that address homelessness, but not its root causes, leaving other citizens vulnerable to public safety threats. Now, Trump is getting at the fact that some of these homeless people have done some horrendous things, such as pushing people into the subway in New York. Okay, he's getting at, I think it was a homeless dude who was in the country illegally who set the woman on fire in New York City in the subway. And I understand the importance of public safety. I mean, I really do. I'm a part of the public. I want to be safe. I want my family safe, my loved ones, friends, etc. Want everyone safe. But our policy should not be based on those kinds of sad and unfortunate anecdotes, because the data already tells us what work. And what we see in this executive order is not what the data tells us that works. Okay? Anyway, shifting homeless individuals into long-term institutional settings for humane treatment through the appropriate use of civil commitment will restore public order. So we see Trump's solution. His solution is to lock these people up. Lock them up. That's what he sees as the solution to this situation. Lock them up. Get them off the streets and put them in jail. Put them in facilities. No more roaming the streets, no more hanging out on the streets, no more, the tent shelters and so on. No, we're going to put them in facilities, long-term facilities. In other words, we're going to lock these people up. Well, there are some problems with that I'll go into in just a moment. All right, because these things are a whole lot more complicated quite often than just lock them up. And again, I know that from having represented many, many, many of these folks over the last almost 2 decades. So he goes on to say, surrendering our cities and citizens to disorder and fear is neither compassionate to the homeless nor other citizens. My administration will take a new approach focused on protecting public safety. So here we go again. Law and order. Law and order. Instead of compassion and more compassion. Locking them up so that we don't have to see them is not the solution. And that's basically what this means to me. Lock them up so we don't have to deal with this. Because most homeless people and mentally ill people are not violent people. So again, yes, you can point to specific situations. No question, you can do that. But most of these people in this population, they are not violent people. And that is an unfair stereotype. And so what does Trump want to do with them? Do away with them. Get them out of sight. Get them out of our faces. There are problems with that I'm going to talk to you about in just a moment. Restoring Section 2, restoring civil commitment. The Attorney General, in consultation with the Secretary of Health and Human Services, shall take appropriate action too. Now, let me just say this, that a lot of the people who are making these decisions and who will carry out these decisions have never dealt with homeless people. So who's over, for example, Health and Human Services? Robert F. Kennedy Jr. When has he dealt with homelessness? When has he dealt with mental illness? You follow me? So they don't know this population. I'll tell you what, get in your car and go ride through the part of town where these folks are. And then park your car and go out there and talk to them. Go out there and see where they are, what their needs are. That'll give you a better perspective than a lot of the people who are making these decisions. Seek in appropriate cases the reversal of federal or state judicial precedents and the termination of consent decrees that impede the United States policy of encouraging civil commitment of individuals with mental illness who pose risk to themselves or the public or are living on the streets and cannot care for themselves in appropriate facilities for appropriate periods of time. Let me go back and address this thing about reversing federal or state judicial precedents or laws and consent decrees. Because what he's getting at there is the fact that some of the state laws, federal laws, local laws, make it very difficult to get mentally ill people committed to a facility. The standard is you must show that they are a danger to themselves and to others. And quite often when you go before a judge, you file a motion, you ask the judge to commit someone that you believe is meets that criteria as a danger to themselves or to others. And it is, admittedly, it is difficult to get these people committed oftentimes. No question. I've dealt with some that I believe needed to be committed and their family couldn't get them committed. But then at the same time, I've also dealt with those who did not need to be committed, and I fault their commitment. Because that type of commitment, especially for a young person who may be just going through something, that will follow that person the rest of their lives. So we need to make sure of what we're doing before it's done when it comes to civil commitment. Because they will have that tag of being someone who is mentally impaired. And sometimes it is just a result of what a person is experiencing. I've represented so many of these folks. And then where Trump says get rid of consent decrees, those were put in place to protect Black people. And keep in mind, a lot of the people impacted by all of this will be disproportionately Black people. Maybe some of your family, some of your friends, your loved ones, your neighbors. But their solution is to essentially get rid of them, put them in facilities. All right? And let me just tell you, one of the issues with putting them in facilities is there aren't enough beds. So the police will arrest them, take them to jail. The jail is already overcrowded. Okay? And so either the attorney or the judge will ask for them to be evaluated, or the police can write something in the police report that will result in them being evaluated. But guess what? Quite often, they will sit in jail. Really. Had a case not long ago where we wanted this guy evaluated. And the judge said, I'll do it, but I have to warn you that the wait right now is 2 years. 2 years. Just sitting in jail waiting for an open bed. That's the problem. That's one of the problems, and it's a big one. Because you shouldn't have to sit in jail 2 years waiting for a bed to open so you can just get evaluated so that you can get back to your case. So just think about it. You have, say somebody is charged with a low-level felony, and the most they will get if they're found guilty is 2 years. Yet they got to go and sit in a jail 2 years to just get evaluated for mental illness. This is Dallas County. All right? There are 10, 11, 12 million people here. The county jail, it is huge. Loose Sterrett is the name of it. All right? And it's always overcrowded. Big cities like this, Dallas and LA and New York and DC and these real big areas, Houston, man, there are no beds for these people. The treatment facilities quite often are just packed. But their solution is to lock more of them up, put more of them in the system, rather than trying to keep them out of the system in affordable housing with case managers and so forth. I'm telling you, it's going to be a mess, and it's going to primarily impact Black people. Now, take this from me, a practitioner. This is what we see. This is what's going on out here. All right? Let's read a little bit of Section 3. Fighting vagrancy on America's streets. Again, that brings me back to these vagrancy laws that were implemented during Jim Crow, these blight code laws, and they were used, those vagrancy laws were used primarily to lock up, to control Black people. Because vagrancy is so broad. If you're standing on the street corner, that's vagrancy. If you're hanging out under the trees, that's vagrancy. And you can ride through most African-American communities, especially in the hood, and find any number of Black people, especially Black men, hanging out that could be arrested under vagrancy laws. This is going to create havoc and more chaos, and especially for the Black community. And look down at the bottom where it talks about enforced prohibitions on open illicit drug use. So just regular drug users are going to get caught up in this. All right, prohibitions on urban camping and loitering. Prohibition against urban squatting. I mean, these are the kinds of prohibitions that can catch up anyone. Folks who are just a little bit down on their luck. People who are just hanging out. Folks who are unemployed for the moment. Who don't need to be in the system at taxpayers' expense. Just think about it. And once again, this is going to impact our community the most. So I just have many issues with this executive order. It sounds more Jim Crow than anything else. And it builds a lot of punishment in the way we deal with poor people, basically. I mean, this administration is just really hard on poor people. Cutting programs, cutting funding, cutting school funding, cutting insurance funding, and now just locking them up to get them off the streets. This administration is hard on poor people. And I'm telling you, I'm warning you, and I've already told you this was coming because it's all laid out in Project 2025 that I made probably 15 videos explaining Project 2025. For you who are new to the channel, go back and look at all the videos I made on Project 2025, trying to warn the African American community this was coming if they help reelect Donald Trump. Okay? Yeah, this administration is really, really hard on folks who are not rich. Now, if you're rich, you're in good shape. You're going to get a nice, fat, juicy tax break. Things are just going to flow well for you. Okay? You're going to do well. But if you happen to be poor and black, you will catch hell from this administration over the next 3.5 years. So, like I told you, Trump is coming for the African American community. And by the way, today, the 28th of July, is 90 days from Trump's executive order where he said he was going to unleash militarized police officers. Today is the 90th day, and in that executive order, he said he wanted back on his desk from the Department of Justice and other departments recommendations about how to make that executive order happen. So I don't believe this executive order, the one about the homelessness, I don't believe the timing of this is coincidental. He's coming for our community. All right. That's what I want to share with you. I am Reverend and Civil Rights Attorney Augustus Corbett. Thank you for watching this video, and stay woke.